What's up guys, TSJAwesome 628 here, back again with episode 10 of my F1 2020 My Team career mode. We're going to get straight into things and we're going to sort out our activity timeline, where I decided to select the power team building so that their morale will go up. And we then went to the R&D screen because we can afford to have a major upgrade, so that will be for either the aero or the chassis. And we decided to go for a weight reduction upgrade to help the chassis, and then advance further forward in time to go to the Canadian Grand Prix. The weather forecast is mainly dry, but there is a bit of rain just at the end of qualifying, which may impact Q3. So we'll quickly do practice, and then I'll come back at the end of practice. And we're going to purchase a tyre wear upgrade, because that is the only minor upgrade that we can purchase, and we can't afford any of the major upgrades. So a tyre wear upgrade it is, which will probably help further. We're here for our first lap in Q1 then, and we go flying through the final chicane just to start our lap. And we go through the first few corners. The car felt pretty good around here, I'm not going to lie. And as we come to the end of the lap, we're going to fly through the final chicane once more. And that's where the AIs are very weak, in the final chicane. And we're going to set a 1.8 flat, which puts us in provisional P1. And as we go towards the end of the session, I didn't go out again because that lap was enough to send us through to Q2 in P2. So if we only need to do one lap in like every session, that is pretty good. But we're going to head to Q2 with Alpha Tauri's, Haas and Williams cars all being knocked out, and Jack Aitken making it through, which is good for us. Here for our lap in Q2 then. We're going to go through the final chicane to start our lap. And we're going to head through the first few corners, and we set a 108.016 in Q1, so we'll see what we can set in Q2 as we come towards the end of the lap. And we head through the final chicane, get a good run through there. We're going to head to the line, and it's a 108.087, so slightly slower than in Q1. But if you remember, our Q1 lap was good enough for P2, so I decided again that I didn't need to go out again, and yet again it's P2 again. Not the same man that beat us though, Charles Leclerc topping this session, but both Merckx and Sebastian Vettel qualified on the medium tyres, so they can start the race. Sadly, Jack Aitken got knocked out in P14, so that's where he'll start from tomorrow's race. But we're going to head to Q3, which started off in the wet conditions as was planned, but I decided not to go out in the wet conditions as it dried up in the final minutes. So, but what we need to pay attention to is, as we come through this final bit, we're going to slow down because we want the driest possible conditions for our lap time, and being with there 30 seconds to go, we don't want to cross too early. So we're going to get Leclerc go past us, and now we're going to go because we think we can cross the line just before the time ends, and we're going to head through the final chicane, and we're going to cross the line with 6 seconds to go, so we timed it pretty well. Charles Leclerc setting the fastest lap for now, but that's immediately beaten by Max Verstappen. It is literally just going to be, people are going to set the fastest lap after fastest lap. But what we need to pay attention to here is I'm right behind Charles Leclerc, and as the lap goes on, we gain time on him as he's already set his flying lap. And as we head through this chicane here, Charles Leclerc pulls to one side to let us through because he's not actually trying to set a flying lap. So we overtake him. Then what I'm confused about is we're ahead of him, so we've overtaken him on this lap, which means we have to have been going quicker than him. We have to have been going quicker than him. we have to have set a quicker lap if we started behind him and finished ahead of him. But as we cross the line, we claim pole position momentarily. But then a simulation glitch seems to kick in, and we finish down in P4. And the pole man is Charles Leclerc. I can tell you that what happened was those three had dry times simulated.
Here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Albon, Thomas, Sebastian Vettel, and Bottas, Hamilton, Perez, Stroll, and Daniel Ricciardo, Sainz, Norris, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Aitken, Raikkonen, Ocon, Daniel Kvyat, and Pierre Gasly, Magnussen, Grosjean, Russell, and Nicholas Latifi.
So the strategy is a two-stop from softs to two sets of mediums. Sad about the simulation glitch where, because the track was still drying and it wasn't completely dry, we were going slower. As you saw, we set a 109.5 rather than the 18.0. So we were quite slow in that department. But when the simulation came in, it did it as if it was completely dry, which it wasn't. But it's 5 red lights, it's lights out and away we go. We get a good start. We immediately pull alongside Albon and want some space in between the two Red Bulls, and that allows us to go through and into P2 in this race, directly behind Charles Leclerc. And we're going to see if we can catch up to him and challenge him for the race lead, but we get a slight squirm on the exit and we're defending from Alex Albon, but we head to the end of the first lap. We've successfully defended from him and we pull away from him and the exit of the final chicane. Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap and he's 2 seconds ahead. So we're going to see if we can go and catch up to him over the next few laps. And as we're going through to the end of lap 2, we're currently setting a purple and a green sector. And we gained a second on Charles Leclerc, or just under a second this lap. But we do set the fastest lap, and we're trying to push on in this race. This is a great chance for us to get a good result. We showed pace in qualifying and, well, pretty much all weekend. And we head through to the end of lap 3, and we are now in DRS range of Charles Leclerc. And we don't quite set a fastest lap, but we have pulled away from Alex Albon by 3.3 seconds so far. So it seems to just be a battle between me and Charles Leclerc for this race. And as we head through to the end of lap 4, we are only 5 tenths behind him. But we can't really seem to get close enough to make an overtake on him though. And that's what we seem to struggle for. So, as we head later on to lap 5, we have DRS on him, but again we're not quite close enough to make a move into the final chicane. And despite getting a better exit, we're still only 5 tenths behind. And that's what I seem to struggle with in this first stint of the race. And on lap 6, we're still just behind him, and we head later on into the lap. And he's pulled away again, but we gain that back in the final chicane, but we can't quite close in on him as we head on to lap 7. So we're just pulling away from Albon behind, both me and Charles Leclerc, but we can't seem to quite overtake him. As we head to the end of lap 7 now, we go through the final chicane once more, gaining the time back that we lost on Charles Leclerc throughout the lap. But this is our pit window opening, so we're probably going to come as the pit to the end of this lap and see whether we can overtake Charles Leclerc. I'm not sure if he's going to come in or not, but we'll see when we get on to the end of the lap. So going on to the end of the lap now, Charles Leclerc does come into the pits, but we also come in, so we're just behind him. Let's see if we can jump him in the pits. I doubt it though, but anything can happen. It's quite a weird pit lane at Canada because you skip turns 1 and 2, but we come out just behind Charles Leclerc. Can't quite overtake him, but this traffic will probably be our best opportunity during the race to overtake him, because if we both get into clean air, it will probably happen what happened in the first stint, where we couldn't quite get past. Leclerc is immediately side by side with Carlos Sainz, and Carlos Sainz, luckily for us, manages to hold on through that corner, because if he didn't, then Charles Leclerc would probably be able to pull away again. Leclerc finally gets past Sainz, but we're going to try and do exactly the same as we have DRS, and we're going to go to the outside into this next corner, and we take the position from him. So we're directly behind Charles Leclerc, and we both have Lando Norris up next to overtake. And, well, this needs to be the place where we get past Charles Leclerc, because if not, as I've said, we're not going to have a better chance. We get a decent run on him through this area here, and we're going to head into the final chicane, and I decided that we're just going to try and send it up the inside. We're only 2 tenths behind him, the closest we have ever been. So we go up the inside into turn 1, and we take the net lead of this race. Obviously it's only P5 for now, but we got Lando Norris now up next, and through this double chicane we now have DRS, and Leclerc is going to try and repass us, but we hold off and instead go up the inside of Lando Norris, going slightly wide at the corner though. But Charles Leclerc also gets past Lando Norris, so he also went up the inside, and we're both pushing on together. Only the 2 Mercedes and Vettel, I believe it is, are still running without having stopped yet. But we're now on lap 11, and I really hope the cars ahead aren't going for the 1 stop, because if they are, then we may have more trouble in trying to catch up to them. But at the end of lap 11, we're looking like we're going to set a fast lap, but we don't quite. We're just a tenth off. We are gaining on Hamilton and Bottas ahead, which is good news for us, for any chances we wanted to win this race. And Jack Aitken is in P6. As we come to the end of lap 12, both Vettel and Hamilton do pit, so we reclaim P2 in this race. And crucially, they both go onto soft tyres, so we'll be making another stop. And I assume that considering Bottas is only going out for like 1 more lap, he will do exactly the same. And as we head to the end of lap 13, Bottas indeed does come into the pits, and that gives us back the race lead, and he does come onto softs, so it is a net race lead as well. We are trying to extend the gap over Charles Leclerc. It's currently about 4 seconds, and as we head into the final chicane on lap 14, he's closed it down to 3 seconds, so we need to just do something to not let the gap close down, and we need to increase our pace, which is what we do over the next few laps. At the end of lap 15 we come in, and again he's gained more time, but we hold back that time in the final chicane to get it back to the 4 seconds that we want it to be. We just want to keep it around 4 seconds so that even if he goes for an undercut, he won't be able to gain enough time. And as we head on to lap 16, it's still again around 4 seconds, and we are just trying to manage the gap. Our pit window is either lap 21 or lap 22 that we're pitting, so only a few more laps. And our engineer came over the radio saying that Charles Leclerc was dropping back by 3 tenths a lap, so that is good news for us, that we are pulling away from him slightly, it seems. So we head to lap 18 now, and it seems like Albon is quite slow and is just holding everyone up, and Vettel's managed to jump him, which is good news for Ferrari overall, because they are beating both Red Bulls and both Mercedes. We are still gaining away from Leclerc, and well, things are looking very good in this race. as we head on to lap 19. And as we head towards the end of lap 19, well, we're still gaining on Leclerc, and as we head through the final chicane, it's just over 4.5 seconds the gap. And, well, I felt like I had a really good rhythm in this race. I wasn't expecting to be fighting for the lead so early on in this career mode, but as we head on to lap 20, Pierre Gasly is out of the session, so something must have happened, and as you can see coming up there are some yellow flags there, so that's probably for Pierre Gasly, but it's actually also for Jack Aitken, who is also out of this race, and our teammate at a race where we may have won, he isn't going to finish, and him and Gasly both seem to be in a very close place in the track. And I wonder if they collided or something, I'm not sure. We decided not to come in on lap 21 as our pace was pretty good, but we will come in on lap 22. Charles Leclerc also decided to stay out, and it's Vettel that comes in for the Ferrari this lap, so we won't be undercut by Charles Leclerc, which is pretty good news. And we're going to come in the end of lap 22 here. It's sad news for Jack Aitken, but hopefully we can pick up some good points to boost us up in the Constructors as we are leading this race. No problems with the pit stop, and it's just a simple 2.4. Not like the best pit stop, but no mistakes, which is pretty good. And we resume our lead in the race. And from here on out, it's just about trying to make sure we come home with this victory and with the fastest lap. So, as we head to the end of lap 23, the gap is just over 6 seconds to Charles Leclerc, and that is quite good news for us, as it just shows we're pulling away. And on lap 24, we try and push even harder because we want to be able to get the fastest lap in the next few laps when our tyres are the freshest they will be. So we head through the final chicane on lap 24, and this was, I think it was my quickest lap of the race, and it is indeed a 109.6, and well, that was only 1/10 off my Q3 time, albeit they were different conditions because the Q3 time was slightly wetter. But on lap 25, the gap is now 7.6 seconds to Charles Leclerc, and well, it looks like we have a very good lead in this race and a very high chance of winning it. So we head to the end of lap 26 now, just still managing the gap to Charles Leclerc, and that was pretty much the story for most of the rest of the race, just managing the gap to Charles Leclerc. And on lap 27, you can see on the mini-map, we're actually catching up to some cars to lap. And as we head towards the end of lap 27, you can see the two Williams just ahead are fighting. And, well, we're almost a lap ahead of them as we head on to lap 28. The gap to Charles Leclerc is still around the 8-second mark, not really going up and not really going down. And you can see the Williams even on our screen now. And as we head towards the end of lap 28, we're going to lap Nicholas Latifi. So that is good news for us, for our pace, but not good news for Williams and Nicholas Latifi. And we head through the final chicane, and we're also going to lap George Russell as he slows down at some point to let us through, because you have to let the leader through if you're a lapped car, and he has let us through. And we're just pushing further and further on in this race, trying to extend the gap to Charles Leclerc. It's now about 9 seconds, and that is pretty good news for us. It's almost 10 seconds. And we're going to head to the end of lap 30 now. And, well, at this point in the race, I was just trying to set consistent lap times. There was nothing more I needed to do. I didn't need to push like extremely hard. I didn't need to like defend massively against anyone. I was basically just in a race on my own. And as we head to the end of lap 31, the gap's still around 9 seconds to Leclerc. So we've managed the gap well this race, and getting past him in that traffic was definitely key this race. Because if we had failed to do so, then I don't think we'd have been in this position. But it turns out we are in this position, and that means that we can almost take home a comfortable race victory. 3 laps to go now, as we head on to lap 33. The gap's about 9.5 seconds to Charles Leclerc. And at the end of lap 33, he's pulled in some time, but that doesn't matter. He can't gain enough time in the remaining 2 laps to catch us up. And, well, we look set for our first race victory. And we're about to head on to the final lap now as we head through the final chicane. Just throwing it into there every corner. The AI are really weak through the final chicane. Charles Leclerc is gaining quite a bit. He's got the gap down to 8 seconds, but he started pushing too late. And that just means that we're on the final lap now. We're going to come out of the hairpin. We've got the run down to the line, and we're going to be celebrating our first race victory. We hadn't even taken our first podium up until now, and it's not just a podium, but as we come round the final chicane, we're going to weave up to the line because it's our first race victory on P1 at the Canadian Grand Prix. That's very good news, and hopefully the first of many in this career mode, as Kimi Raikkonen wins Driver of the Day.
For what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One.
I agree, it's a fantastic day for Formula One. I mean, our team's obviously the most important team on the grid, so us winning is very good news. But yeah, as I said, hopefully the first of many, and hope.
This result has had on the driver's standings. More points for Valtteri Bottas, further solidifying his lead at the top of the table. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Charles Leclerc showed exactly how to manage yourself out on the track today. He was almost flawless out there. Incredible stuff.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Okay, so we win the race from the 2 Ferraris, the 2 Mercedes and the 2 Red Bulls. And we managed to lap both Williams cars. Sad for Jack Aitken that he couldn't finish the race. I think he may have been able to get points. I'm not exactly sure where he was. The 2 racing points are also pretty good in best of the rest. I'm not quite sure why Anthony Davidson selected Charles Leclerc as his driver of the day when he started from pole and managed to only get P2, but we'll gloss over that. In the championship standings, Bottas extends his lead as he beat Hamilton this race, and we go up to P6 ahead of Alex Albon, which is very good news for us. I was not expecting to be this high at this point in the season. Williams and Haas are still the only 2 teams yet to score this season, but we overtake Renault for P4 in the constructor standings, and I don't think we'll be able to get any higher than that, so we're just going to hope to hold position.
That was an exciting race from our perspective. Let's have yours. You took the top points today. Was it a comfortable win?
I mean, after I got past Charles Leclerc, it was a pretty comfortable win. I mean, the car did feel just fantastic. Well, all parts of it, but I'll have to choose one, but I'll go with it was fantastic, probably option. It has been amazing.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
Yeah, the strategy just through the corners.
What's your secret?
Yeah, we just had the great team and a great car for this
Your
race.
luck has changed. Things went a lot better than last weekend, didn't
last weekend wasn't bad. It's just that this weekend was amazing. I mean, we did bring a couple of upgrades to the car, but nothing major. So I'm just glad we could find some pace.
Great. Well, that's everything.
So looking at the rivalry, I forgot to mention that we selected Ricciardo as our rivalry for this time, as we defeated Kimi Raikkonen last time out. But we now take a 7-3 lead over him. And we go up to level 7 on the Team Acclaim, which is good news. Jack Aitken's still at level 6, but we're level 8 as a team, and hopefully we can get to level 10 shortly to get another sponsor. But of the sponsors that we currently have, we managed to complete their objectives, so we gain a good cash bonus. But I'll probably leave the episode there, and I'll see you guys next time for the French Grand Prix